So here's a couple of things that are important. A lot of times the cleanup production efforts in a firm, they're done at the workshop level, but they never really get up to the level of management. And what we find is more and more, like somebody like Michael Porter would advocate for bringing the environment out of the workshop into the boardroom and moving it so that your ability to use the environment to advantage, either with cleaner products for your marketing or risk management, move that up into the boardroom, move it up to the highest levels of the company and have it be part of the business plan of a company, as opposed to something that the environmental engineers are working on with the workshop staff. This is the idea. You don't see it very much. Having cleaner production and ISO be core elements of a business plan. That's why I like the Disney story, because for Disney, that's what it's about. It's integration into their core strategy. So this is just a little summary, a wrap-up before your aperitif. Or maybe you'll go straight to dinner because you're so hungry. I don't know. But in any case, why did we look at China? Well, reasons I think by now are obvious. We looked at some of the challenges and the responses, which are innovative, but they still have implementation problems. They have great ideas, but tough implementation problems. We looked at the significance of these external pressures, which I think, my take on it is that these are what's driving a lot of the attention that's been given to environment by the huge multinational companies. And you see them both, the international NGOs, the pressures on domestic suppliers, citizen protests, and so on. Well, which of these do you think is the reason to explain why Pakistani firms that don't even know they have environmental laws are greening? Which of those would you imagine? Which one? The last one? Not yet, because in Pakistan they don't know much about that. Citizens? Citizens, no clue. Nope. Citizens. It's a war zone. You know, you got drones flying over, dropping bombs on you. International NGOs, not it. Who is it? None of the above? Second bullet point. Multinationals pressuring domestic suppliers. You go to the Pakistani firms and you say, "Why is your firm so clean?" You say, "Well, this company in Europe says they won't buy from me unless I clean up." It's happening right here in Europe. You see, you're the reason that those firms are complying. You're from all over, but anyway, those of you who are European. It's the European companies that are being very strict about what's getting imported. They say, no, we won't buy from you unless. We studied mostly tanneries and textile companies. And the big textile companies, they're putting pressure on the Pakistani exporters of textiles. And so my last point here is that, and this is the really takeaway message, that you can enhance your competitiveness by thinking about environment in the context of overall business plans. And it's not happening a lot, but it's likely to happen more and more. And so there are advantages to get out in front and start thinking about it this way, because there are wasted resources. Another minute or two for questions if you have some. Ilyas?
What's your impression on why the U.S. either doesn't respect ISO 14001 or isn't motivated to become ISO 14001? Why are we so below?
I think it's because of it's the supply chain pressures that are causing the big upsurges that you see in ISO 14001, and we're not. I haven't studied it, but I don't imagine we're big exporters of materials that are used as inputs into other products in countries where they care.
So it's maybe...
I think it's the supply chain.
It's the big supply chain, so it's the big business-to-business supply.
Exactly.
It's not business to consumer.
No, it's not business to consumer.
We're really talking about consent.
Yeah, it's not business to consumer. It's business to business. I could go to a class of environmental specialists at Stanford University, Chances are none of them have heard, unless they've taken my class, they wouldn't have heard of ISO. No. It's not in the vocabulary. Michelle, have you ever heard of ISO 14001? It's not in the common vocabulary. It's not, I mean, you've probably heard of organics. Absolutely, right, you know, she's there. But ISO, what's that? Yeah.
Is ISO 14001 the same ISO as like ISO 5000?
Yes, yes, the same group. Yeah, ISO 9000. You're probably familiar with ISO 9000, which is a quality control. It's the same organization. It's just in Geneva. It's not far. Yeah, it's the same group. I mean, this is all voluntary, but you can see, is it really voluntary? I mean, there's pressure, but it's all voluntary, and it's groups of specialists from companies forming technical committees to make new voluntary regulations, you could say. And then firms do it or not, depending if they want to or they see advantage in doing it. There are a lot of firms that don't export that say, well, we'll set up an environmental management system, but we won't go to the trouble and the cost of getting ISO certified because there's no advantage in being certified. So you find that there's a whole subset of firms that have a management system, but it's not certified. They feel like, well, we're getting the advantage of it. We don't need to spend any more. Time for one last question. Yes?
Can we assume that in countries where local regulation are less severe than in other countries like Europe or the US, it is more needed to be ISO 14000?
Well, I think it's the business-to-business link that makes it, that really is the difference. It's not that, well, it's not like, so suppose I'm not selling to another business, let's suppose, and I'm in a developing country. I'm not going to say, gee, I better become ISO 14001 because the environmental regulations are so weak. No, I'm going to exploit the weak regulations. The only thing that's going to motivate me, I mean, unless I'm a saint, you know. Oh, if I want to export, that's a whole different story.
You can export to a company that is not ISO 14000, then they can ask you to do it or not.
Yes.
If you want to export to a company that is ISO 14000, then you have to be yourself.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's the business-to-business linkage that drives it. It's not a question of, well, I'm in a country where the regulations are weak, so I will do ISO 14000. It's like, well, I have to do it because I want to sell to this company. And they're requiring me to do it. If you want to sell to Ford Motor Company, you have to do it. Otherwise, you don't get the business. Walmart says, you know, if you're not clean, I don't want to deal with you. I won't buy from you. You know, why do you want the headache? Why do you want to be in the New York Times on the front page saying, you know, that you just caused a fish kill in China? No, you don't want that. One last question. Oh, yeah.
So what's your advice for the SME from China? There are a lot of problems with the pollution, but they don't have enough money to solve all these problems. So,
well, you know, my advice to SME is a shorthand for small and medium-sized enterprises. So my advice would be, if you have aspirations to export, or if you have aspirations to sell even in China to companies that are exporting, get with the program, or you'll be out of business. You'll lose those business customers. It's not a question of saying, do the right thing. You know, these are the rules of the game. The rules of the game are changing. You know, you have to get with the program or you'll be out of business, or you'll lose those business customers. You could sell in your village, no problem. But if you're selling to somebody that's selling to somebody that's selling to somebody that cares about this, sooner or later it's going to get you. So you might as well get out in front. That'd be my advice. Yeah.
I have a last comment.
Please. Here, for the microphone.
There was a question a moment ago by one of the participants about why do we do all that? You know, why do we want all that to happen eventually? And you said is it for nature, is it for man? And you said it's for men, of course. We do that because people are required to have RC products and so on. But the question more generally, which is discussed at length by economists, is Yes, for improving the welfare of people, nature by itself has no preference. We just want to improve the welfare of people, but which people? The present generation or the future generation? And this becomes the real issue. You know, you have the two sides of the debate. One which says we have to legate our problems to the future generations because they will be richer than us and they will be able to cope with it better than we do. So we have to leave to the other. So the question of nuclear waste, for instance, in this regard, is something that should not be an issue because we consider that the future generation will be able to bear this problem. The other side, of course, is a sort of philosophical standpoint, which is opposite. We don't want to legate to our descendant a planet which has been damaged and so on. So this becomes an ethical issue. And dealing with that is of course, a matter of national policies, of international relationships. It's also a matter of companies sometimes, you know, because when you dismantle a company, for instance, you leave on the ground, you leave lead, you leave copper, you leave sort of heavy metals. And they do not hurt necessarily the present generation, but they will legate some kind of damage to the future generation. So the problems sometimes become ethical. And you are right with, you agree with that, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I think as an engineer, from a practical point of view, I think the counter-argument to leaving as a legacy some of these problems is that don't leave a legacy of things that are irreversible from a practical point of view. And there are many things that are irreversible from a practical point of view. You can always say, well, the forest will grow back in 10,000 years or whatever, but from a practical point of view, it's not going to happen, you see. And those you don't want to leave as a legacy. That's not fair, you see. That's not fair. Yeah, but you're right, it's ethical. No, it's an ethical question. Absolutely, absolutely. It's an ethical question, and it's one that's been...
Some people think everything can be reversible, sooner or later, more or less.
Yeah, but that's the point, that from an engineer's point of view, everything is not reversible. Yes, sooner or later, but maybe too much later to matter, you see? So, you know, I'm always on the edge of worrying about reversibility questions. How hard is it to reverse from a practical point of view? Well, I'm getting the sense that we have come to an end of our conversation. Thank you for your attention. It's been enjoyable.